Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I've just finished work and this has been kind of playing on my mind all day, so I wanted to record a video about it because I think it could be helpful for a few reasons. So I'm going to talk today about how I dropped out of my master's degree many years ago now. I think this was 5 years ago. The reason I think this will be helpful for people is because if you're perhaps in the same situation and maybe you're stuck doing something you don't really want to do, maybe your heart's not fully in it and you just feel a bit uncomfortable, I'm hoping this video is going to give you some encouragement that whatever you decide, it will be fine, and in years ahead, you probably won't even think about it. Looking back now, I think dropping out of my master's degree was a strength and not a weakness. I know some people think that whenever you drop something, it can be seen as a failure, but actually having the courage to go against what everyone is telling you and make a change and go in a direction that you want to go in, I think is really, really cool. Like, really cool. I think back to this period of my life now, and I was telling my tutors and my professors, friends, blah, 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 family, etc., that I was going to drop out. And some people were supportive, but a lot of people were like, oh no, you just need to finish it. You need to stay doing it. You need to keep doing this. And I was just thinking, well, I'm miserable. Why would I keep doing this just for the sake of finishing something? And I really, really struggled to the point where I did 2 semesters. I finished 2 out of 3 semesters and I dropped out the last semester because I physically had no motivation to finish this thing. I wasn't happy. I was doing something I didn't want to do, so I decided, do you know what, I'm actually going to drop out and just have no plan. That's exactly what I did. I dropped out of my master's degree with no plan at all. I had no job prospects lined up. I had no clue what I was going to do, and it was kind of the first period of my life where I'd gone against what everyone was telling me. I always think of it as kind of like this river. You're on this river and the current is really, really strong and it's just dragging everyone in the same direction. However, you see that there's like a branch on the side of the river and you think, oh, do you know what? I wonder what happens if I like grab and try and get out of the river. But everyone's like knocking into you to try and get you to keep going on the path they're going. That's kind of what I feel like happens whenever you try and do something that is outside of the norm. And I think by doing this years ago, it got me so familiar and comfortable with stepping out of my comfort zone. I think just by making decisions like this, it becomes a habit, and over time, you just get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So for any of you who are in maybe a similar position and are thinking about dropping out of your course or maybe your degree, I want to preface this by saying I was already educated. I already had a lot of qualifications. Like, I had a first-class maths degree. I was not short of qualifications. This is not me dropping out of school or dropping out of college. This is me dropping out right at the end of like further academia. So me dropping out of a master's isn't the same as someone dropping out of school or something like that. So I think the first mistake I made with the master's is that I was doing it for the complete wrong reason. I was in this situation that you get into after uni, kind of like that post-uni depression period where I'd finished uni, I'd moved home, and I kind of had to think, right, what do I need to do? So I didn't want to get a job. I didn't want to go out into the real world and work. So I thought the safe thing to do would be to carry on in education, which was what I already knew, and then go and do a master's degree. This was mistake number 1 because I wasn't passionate about the course. I was doing the same course at the same university, essentially, just at a little higher level. So I was already extremely familiar with everything. And it just got to a point where I just felt stale. I was sick of this kind of classroom education environment. I was just done with it. And it got to a stage where I would just turn up to university and I would just be working on other things. Like, I would be out for 10 hours a day, but I would be working on music or maybe working on this business idea, just doing anything to avoid actually doing the work on my master's. And I don't think it helped that I was living at home either, because all my friends had kind of moved back to where they were from, or they'd moved to London. I'd moved home and I was commuting in to do this master's, and it didn't feel the same as my undergraduate. That is something that I would encourage people to do. If you are going to do a master's degree, think about doing one in a completely different place, because it not only gives you new experiences and a fresh perspective, but it'll keep you engaged with what you're actually doing. I think another mistake that I made was that I was essentially doing the same course. I'd spent 3 years doing mathematics, statistics, operational research, and then my master's was going to be in the same kind of thing, and I don't recommend that. I think nowadays, if I was going to do a master's, I would do something completely different, like economics or maybe psychology, something that really, really piques my interest, because what I found was that after doing 3 years of maths and then another 4th year of maths, which was kind of the same already, I just switched off. I need to be constantly engaged. So just bear that in mind if you're thinking of doing a very similar course at the same university. I had no interest in doing a PhD or be going on to become a professor or staying in academia at all. I was very much done. So it got to a stage where I was 2 semesters through, I had a third to finish, and that would have been me with my master's degree. However, I opted out and I decided to drop out at that stage because I physically couldn't muster the motivation to do this dissertation. I hadn't really put in much work throughout the year. I'd kind of coasted along and got, middle of the road grades. And when it came to the dissertation, it meant that I was actually going to have to engage and kind of present back this research that I was supposedly passionate about. And at that point, I just thought, I'm going to drop out because I don't really see the point in finishing this just for the sake of finishing this. And this kind of went against everything I'd done my entire life, because my entire life I'd always been told, you finish things just for the sake of finishing them. You don't kind of go off the beaten path. You stay on it. You go to university. You get a job, blah, 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 blah. And I guess this was the first time that I'd gone against that and kind of dropped something. The day I dropped out, my tutors thought that I was making this huge mistake and that I'd regret it. The funny thing is that a year later, I got a job doing the exact same thing that I would have done if I'd have already got a master's degree. I don't think over the last 3 to 4 years of working that I've ever been asked about anything to do with my degrees. They just see that I have one and then they move on. Never mind asking whether I have a master's degree. I know it's required for some things, but for what I want to do, it's just not. Looking back now, this was 100% the right thing to do, and I haven't even thought about it up until the last few days when I was thinking, oh yeah, remember that time when I was so worried about dropping out of something? The reality is that as soon as you make the decision, it becomes a lot less scary and you realize that no one really cares and it's your life. You may as well do what you want to do with it. You should check out Jeff Bezos' theory, like the CEO of Amazon. What he says, he lives by a regret principle. So when I'm 80 or 90 years old, what will I regret more? And I'm not going to regret dropping out of my master's at all. For anyone thinking, or maybe you just know deep down that you're going to drop out and this thing that you're doing is just not right for you, I can honestly say that I haven't looked back since. I haven't thought, oh, I wonder what would happen if I'd have finished my dissertation. I've spoken to many people who were on my course, finished it, and it turns out I've actually progressed a lot quicker than they have in their respective roles, mainly because I got out into the world a bit earlier and I learned hands-on experience. I try not to live with regrets, but if I was in this situation again, I wouldn't even bother doing a master's, and that's for me personally. I was doing it because I just didn't want to get a job and I didn't want to go out into the real world. However, what I know now is that that's where you actually start learning. So I would 100% recommend anyone who is torn between, do I just avoid going into the real world or should I do a master's to kind of grab myself another year? Unless you're really, really passionate about what you're going to be doing or you need it for the certain profession you want to go into, I would recommend just try and get out into the world and you'll gain a lot more experience and I think learn a lot more than being stuck in a classroom. Like I said, guys, this is my experience and this is not me telling you to drop out of anything or do this and do that. It's just that I know there's probably a few of you out there who are in a similar sort of situation that I was in all those years ago. Hopefully this video can help you and hopefully it shows that whatever you choose, you're going to be absolutely fine. Just go with your gut instinct and you probably won't even bother looking back. I hope this video was helpful. If you did like it, please let me know down in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. Take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon.